Hey, welcome to Mike the Baptist. This is our second week back from after our hiatus. Is that a word?
Hiatus?
Seems like a word. Anyway, second week back, and I'm tickled to be back again. I'm kind of pumped up.
You look tickled.
Thank you. It's harder to tell. It used to be, but back with my good friend Neil Andrews.
Hey,
Good to see you back.
thanks for asking me back.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
I was worried after last week.
No,
Thought I might get
you're,
fired.
You're still in.
Okay. Thank
We'll
you.
let you know if you say the wrong thing. We'll tell you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you tell me as well. Hey, if we do, we'll buzz ourselves. H.T. Jones is back.
Hey, good to be here again.
Good to see you again as well. Great, rambunctious, spirited talks. Last week, I'm hoping for the same this week. So we'll see what happens.
Rambunctious.
Good to have you back if you're listening and or watching. If you came back after seeing it once, I'm impressed. We came back. You
They
came
may
back.
just be curious.
They may just be curious. I would be kind of curious, kind of like going to the zoo and
Yes.
seeing the odd animals, that you don't know really what to think about them, but you can't quit looking.
What's an odd animal?
Anteaters are really odd.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those birds that have like their beak and then they got a horn on top of their beak, and you're like, what?
That's odd.
What in the world?
A giraffe is odd to me because I just don't understand why their neck is like that. I mean, why did they? I don't understand that.
Zebras, are they black with white stripes or white with black stripes?
See?
See, that's just bizarre.
Comments at MikeTheBaptist.com. Send us an email, www.MikeTheBaptist.com.
W.
People don't say www anymore, do they? They just say MikeTheBaptist.com.
Probably.
Go there and tool around. So last week on the front porch, we talked about one thing, early memories, and I said last week that the following week, which would be this week, today, we were going to talk about interesting, funny things that happen on church group trips. However,
We got convicted.
we did get convicted, and we realized that
We had also talked about forgiveness, too.
we did, and but mainly we realized that most of those stories we would have to name names and or tell a story about someone that's probably listening and watching, and we didn't really want to have
At least still alive.
Yeah, we didn't want to have to deal with that. So we've kind of changed gears, and we were trying to discuss something to discuss, and H.D., in his corn dog wisdom, said we could talk about, on the front porch, we could talk about front porch stuff, which was confusing at first, but then once I kind of got what he was saying, I thought, well, that would be kind of interesting, because it helps me push this front porch visitation theory. I'd love to see it and know that people started visiting each other on the front porch again.
See, the world kind of changed when people quit going out on their front porch.
It really did.
I mean, I remember, so the house that I grew up in with mom and dad, we had a front porch, but it was not really facing anything. So, and nobody ever came to the front porch. They always came to the back door.
So you built your house facing the woods.
Correct. But my grandparents' house faced the main road.
Yeah.
And so we was always on the front porch. And the front porch would be places where like you shelled peas
Yeah.
and you shucked corn.
Yes.
And
Churn butter. Did you ever churn butter?
I did. And me and one of my distant female cousins took a bath in a tub out there on the front porch. I think that's kind of illegal now.
That's country.
But I don't know why they did that to us, but we must have gotten filthy out in the yard. But yeah, the front porch was the place where people shared information, cut up with each other, reminisced. And then my grandmother, I love my grandmother because when we lived, I still live in the same place. I hadn't gone very far, but Bethel Road used to be pitch and tar. It wasn't really a asphalt road, and she knew everybody that went up and down the road. I mean, literally every car that come down the road. Well, there goes Bobby, and there goes Sue's, and she would sit there and watch cars and tell us who was going down the road. Funny though that as they got older, my granddad decided to box in the front porch. And so he took a bunch of old storm doors and boxed in the front porch. And then he had a little carport. Well, then he decided to box in the carport. So by the time they were in their 80s, I think there literally was like 5 doors to get into the house. You know, people are like, did y'all have crime out in the country? No, because you would have gotten tired. You wouldn't have broke into the house because you had to go through 5 doors, which is really kind of bad because we did have a couple emergency situations where we had to go through all the doors, you know. But, you know, front porches were fun. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot happened on them over the years. After you brought that up, you got to thinking, and
you know, James Gregory's got a whole skit about that, and he talks about that's where America went to heck in a handbasket. He said you can't raise a family on a deck.
He's really funny.
He is funny.
That guy's really funny. I can't get that picture out of my head of building a wall out of screen doors.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Storm doors. Interesting. And was that, you mentioned that road was pitch and
Tar.
Yep. So, because where I'm from, everything's dirt roads. We didn't even have gravel on them. They were just dirt roads. And so,
yep,
if a car drove by in the summer, your whole house had to be dusted. Yep. I mean, it was just like, a huge cloud. Interesting. This would have been Greenbrier, Tennessee?
Yep. Wow. Route 1, Box 109.
Route 109.
Yep.
Interesting. All right. Neil?
I was thinking about, I think I've told you this before, but I like to ask older people what's changed in their life that's been the biggest change. And I always used to think that people would say, oh, it's the television or the, you know, that kind of technology thing. And my dad said there were 2 things that changed. One of them was indoor refrigeration.
Mm-hmm.
So air conditioning, and I mean, when he grew up, they had the ice truck that would come around and bring the block of ice to keep things cold for a couple of days. So they'd go to the grocery store every day, every other day, or they go out to the farm. You know, my grandparents had all that stuff they grew. But the other one was, he said, we used to sit on our front porch and talk to, you know, all the neighbors knew each other because it was a neighborhood.
Yeah.
That would have been my dad's. I'm trying to remember which side of the family, because my mom's parents were the ones with the farm, and then my dad's were like in a neighborhood. And so everybody'd sit on the porch and talk to each other. And it was after, I saw a documentary after World War II when they started changing home designs so they didn't have a front porch, and now you call it a deck. It's the same thing, but it's out back. Mm-hmm. But it's not welcoming.
Right.
Because you have to go through a private space to get to it. You have to be invited.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the front porch, everybody can show up there. Everybody's welcome.
In the old days, they would if they saw you on your front porch.
Right.
It was like an open invitation. And
so think about all the neighborhoods. Think about all the neighborhoods going up around here.
Yep.
How many do you see that have porches on?
Well, I've noticed that a lot of these little housing developments, if you go look at the house, some of them have a front porch, but it's about 2 feet wide.
It's not big enough to put a rocking chair on.
It's a stoop.
It's a stoop.
Yeah.
It's just to look at, but
yeah.
So the houses you're talking about were more in a suburban type area than the country type area.
It was the town would have been like what Franklin's like
Franklin, Tennessee,
30 years ago, right?
Kind of
so there's
town.
a city square
right.
or a roundabout with a monument in the center.
Mm-hmm.
They had different soldiers up there in the north than they did down here.
Right.
Yep, in the center, yeah. And then the city, it would go maybe 2 blocks out, and then it's all farmland out.
Yeah.
All the way around then. So it would have been that kind of homes that are off the city square.
Do you remember being on the front porch doing anything as a kid or anything?
Sitting on the rocking chair or the swing,
mm-hmm.
porch swing.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember that. Yep. With cousins and. Mm-hmm.
We need to bring it back. I'm just telling you, it's a good thing.
We heard a commotion one time, and it was kind of like screaming and then laughing all at the same time. And the chains had broken on the swing.
Oh, no.
And my grandmother and some other lady just hit the ground. That was kind of fun.
You would laugh at your grandmother.
Was she laughing?
Oh, yeah. She was
the
okay.
ground.
Okay.
Get them up was even more fun.
Because we get a part of our house now that's got a nice deck that's covered and have a porch swing at the end of it. And
a jacuzzi.
no, that's in the back.
Maybe we should talk about.
Jacuzzi that's Arkansas. If it's on the front porch.
Maybe we should talk about fun stories in the jacuzzi.
I think it was 3 years ago. All of the grandkids were over, and the youngest boy, his next up brother, kept going, "Why don't you ride that?" I can't think of what they call them. They call it a razor. So like a scooter, except they're metal. And our driveway kind of goes like this.
Yeah.
And the older brother was going,
Why don't you ride
that down there? And all the other grandkids are going, "No, don't do that. That's really dumb. Don't do that." And they're not dumb kids. They're smart kids. And the older one goes, "I'll give you $10 if you do it." So he went down there and he didn't make the curve and he busted his wrist. We had to take him to the emergency room.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's porch swing, so it was a porch story.
It's worth $10 right there.
Oh, to that older brother, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 3 quick things that came to mind on our front porch. We live kind of on the top of a crest on this highway, and it was very busy. There's people all the time. And like you said, people would stop and visit you. Well, 3 quick things. One, I can recall being in grade school. I don't remember how old I was, but at that time on this front porch, you remember how they built the 2x4 wood columns with a space, and then they cut out these wooden diamonds, and they put 2 or 3 of them down? Well, my brother and I, we had those loose because we would twirl them and mess with them all the time. They'd finally given up on. But I was waiting on the school bus out there one morning in grade school, and I had climbed up to the second diamond. And when I put my foot on it, it came down, and the 2 nails that were holding it in
ouch.
Pierced my knee. So I didn't have to go to school. But the second thing about that place was there was this family in that area. I think they had 30 kids, I think. It was a lot of kids. It might have been 30, but they had a lot of kids. But my granddad, was the local used car guy. Everybody in the country bought a car from him at some point in their life. This family had bought several over the years, And so they kind of felt at home there. And I recall us being out on the porch. I don't know, Mama might have been doing beans or sewing, but we were all on the front porch for some reason. And this family drives by, and in 30 seconds, they come back, and they pull up. And they come walking up to the porch there, and they're talking about a car or something. I don't know. They talked there for a while, and it's like they were, how some people, you kind of wish they would leave, but they don't. And you're kind of waiting, and you're waiting. And so these people were doing that, and they got to the end of that, and they were walking across the yard. Where I'm from, when you're leaving, the people you're visiting, they'll follow you a pretty good ways telling you bye. It takes a long time to say goodbye. So Daddy was out halfway in the yard. We were still on the porch because these people were finally leaving. And as they were getting in the car, he made the mistake of saying, "Y'all might as well stay for supper." And I recall them looking at each other, closing doors, and they came in and stayed for supper. It was a long night. See, a lot of things happen on the front porch. Okay, if you see us out on our front porch, stop and visit us.
Yep, come on in.
We'll talk about this kind of stuff with you all day. But we might not ask you to stay for supper. All right, we'll take a break, come back, talk about some more serious stuff.
This episode of Mike the Baptist is being presented commercial-free for your enjoyment by Michael Jackson, licensed realtor in Middle Tennessee. Rather than have you bombarded by pleas to buy things, Michael Jackson, the realtor, wanted to sponsor today's program and allow you to simply enjoy the content rather than worry about somebody trying to sell you stuff. Oh sure, Michael Jackson, realtor, might help people buy and sell houses and land in Middle Tennessee, but he doesn't actually sell things directly. So technically, this is not a commercial to sell you anything at all. It's simply an announcement to you that you don't have to listen to commercials on this episode because Michael Jackson, the realtor with Finch Real Estate in White House, Tennessee, 615-957-5064, is sponsoring this commercial-free program. This in no way, of course, means that if you're wanting to shop for a house or sell one or some land, that you shouldn't contact Michael Jackson, the realtor, because you should. He's fair, he's helpful, knowledgeable about the real estate market, and he's fun to work with. Okay, I'm Michael Jackson, the realtor, Finch Real Estate. And this is a commercial because my work as a real estate agent helps me have the time and resources to produce these Mike the Baptist programs. So feel free to call me for any of your real estate needs. I'll help you out all I can, and I'll do my best to make buying and selling your house a good experience. 615-957-5064. I'm number 2. Everybody else claims to be number 1.
Hey, welcome back. This is a friendly reminder that we don't want to get too churchy.
Welcome back,
Yeah.
Buzz.
We don't want to get too churchy on Mike the Baptist. So if you hear that,
Just heard that.
that's our get her back to normal talk button.
You should get one of those and put it in a little box and put it like up in a ceiling fan in somebody's room.
I think you
Yes,
should. I think you should get a T-shirt that says "Mike the Baptist, my favorite place to get buzzed."
You know what, HC?
Ooh, that's good.
I'm going to do that.
You
That's until I heard that favorite
like
place to get
that.
buzzed, because we've had different phrases about I got buzzed on, but I like that one. My favorite
That's a
place to
good
get
one.
buzzed.
You're a marketing
You're
guy.
welcome.
That'll be ready
Yeah.
soon.
Man.
MikeTheBaptist.com. Keep a watch. Hey, anyway, let's talk about some stuff we found in the Bible. HD, are you going to?
Facilitate this.
Yes.
Yes, because you guys overwhelm us with your knowledge. So,
Thanks.
this week we've been talking a lot about grace, and one of the things that we see happen in the Apostle Paul's life, which, by the way, is so beneficial in the Bible, that the Bible is just honest about life. Paul says he has this thing. We don't really know what this thing is in his life, whether it's a physical issue, an emotional issue, or whatever it is. And yet Paul says he begs God to take it out of his life. And so finally, God gives him the answer. And it's not, yes, I'm going to take this out of your life. Actually, God says, I'm leaving it there for a purpose. And he says, but my grace is sufficient for you. Mm-hmm. And so kind of what I want us to talk about is, where have you seen in your own life where God's grace was sufficient for you? You went through something that was difficult or hard, and you would have gone around that if you possibly could, but God took you through it for a reason, and one of the things you learned was His grace was better than the difficulty that you went through.
Beauty before age.
Wait a minute. I had to think about that for a second. Being the creative, rebellious type, there are things I've had to learn the hard way. Because ever since I can remember, I think I was born thinking I could fly an airplane if you give me 15 minutes with it. I can't. But I had to learn a lot of that the hard way. But so, having been through a bunch of things, some things I go through nowadays, I know immediately before I get started on them that I can worry about it. I can try to force the issue. I can try to figure it out and make these great plans about how to handle it. Or I can remember back to times I was in the identical situation and thought the world was coming to an end and just completely stressed out and wasted a whole lot of my time not trusting that things that have happened before that He was in charge of always worked out. Always worked out. And so in my mind, I think about the times that I went through things and He worked it out. It was never on my timing. Never like I thought it would be. In fact, it's hard to be humbled, but I've been humbled a lot of times. But I look back at all those episodes and realize that most of those times I was worried for no reason at all. I think I was impatient. And you know, the more I come up on some of the similar situations as those I may be talking about now, the more I realize that if I'm his, he's going to take care of me. What that means is something different than it used to be. He's going to take care of me used to mean what I thought should be done.
Right.
When all along, what he had in mind was always the better answer, the better solution, and not necessarily, there again, not necessarily what I would think would be the great outcome of something, because, you know, I'm human. Great outcome would be more money, better looks, you know, make me better look, stuff like that. But it's like he's more interested in an inner peace in me. I realize down the road, that's what's probably the most important thing, is for me to be at peace, understanding that he's going to take care of it. Did that talk about what you were after? Because that's what immediately came to my mind, is that I think last week we talked about relationship with him, and the more you trust him and the more he, I guess, proves himself to you, the more comfortable you get with him and understand that, you know, he is trying to have some sort of relationship with you, whether you can see him or not. That's
one of our, I would say, one of our favorite Bible studies that we've gone to talks about, it's a love relationship with Jesus. And, you know, you get to a place where what does that mean to you? What's that look like? And it's so hard to understand that God, it says he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He exists outside of time. So he's seen, he knows the past, he's present in the present, but he also knows the future. And so you have to get to that place where you trust, which is a hard thing to do, that everything is going to, if you're his and you acknowledge that, you got to get to that place where you trust and where you have faith, which is a hard thing to do. It's not easy. And every time one of those things has happened with me, I think I'm better about it now, but it's still a struggle to get to that place where it's, what is God's desired outcome in this situation? You know,
you may not know.
Well, right. You don't typically know. Mm-hmm. And he knows what's going to happen. He knows what decisions you're going to make. But ultimately, what's the worst that can happen? You can end up with him sooner than you would have otherwise, you know.
That's actually not a bad way to think.
And I have to be in that frame of mind, I think, a lot of times, because I want to try to work things out and all the details and everything, and that's not
right.
Well, you know, we talk about, and like you said, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, how many Christians, and I get this, we just have these little idioms that we say to each other, and it's like, well, how you doing, brother? Well, I'm 6 feet above ground. I'm
right.
doing good today. And I'm like, well, wouldn't you be doing better if you were in the presence of God? Mm-hmm. You know, we talk about it all the time. I was just listening to somebody the other day, and they were talking about that this guy and his dad had talked about heaven. He said, my whole life, and he said, the days before my dad passed away, he was acting like he didn't want to die, and we kept telling him, you know, Dad, you're going to die. You know, it's okay. Your body wants to fight death. You're not made for death. Your lungs want to breathe. Your heart wants to pump blood. But he was like, it was almost, he talked about it until it was upon him. And so, you know, this idea of God's grace being sufficient, we can't fault Paul for wanting to know, are you dead? So we can't fault the Apostle Paul for wanting to get rid of pain. None of us sign up and go, hey, I want to be in pain today. And pain will cause you to think weird things. But, you know, he asks God, and God says, my grace is sufficient. And I think we have to all know that in our life, because we're going to go through, if you haven't yet, you're going to go through storms, and you don't want to be there. But we have to remember that God's love is there for us, and it's sufficient for us.
Is it okay to stress out, though?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why would it be okay? Does that mean that you don't have enough faith if you stress out a little?
I think you're just being real. I mean,
good answer.
There's a part a part of stress where we can become putting our faith in something besides God. Mm-hmm. But I do think, I mean, that's like saying, is it okay to move your hand off a burning stove? Yeah, because that's my reaction to pain. You're going to react to your pain. You're going to. Nobody loses somebody they love and goes, oh, well, that's just jolly gee good. They're with God now. I mean, you're going to miss them. You're going to hurt because you love them. So I don't think we have to be. Jesus lamented. Mm-hmm. He cried out. He even said, God, if there's any other way. Yep. So in his humanness, he struggled with that. And I think when we try to tell people you're not allowed to struggle, I think we dehumanize what it means to be a Christian. I mean, it doesn't mean you'll never be stressed out. We're all husbands and dads. We look at our checkbook and we kind of go, do I have enough money to make it through the month? We don't want our kids to be hurt. We don't want them to be in jail. We don't want them to be addicted to drugs and alcohol. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we have worries and we have concerns. And I think, again, what God is saying to Paul here is not, just get over it. I think he's saying, I understand your pain. I'm not choosing to take that away from you right now, but I will walk with you in that. And so that kind of helps me with the second part of what I was thinking in our reading this week. What are evidences that you are a child of God? How can you know, I'm a child of God? What evidence is there to say, that person really is a follower of Jesus Christ?
It's beauty before age this time.
That's him.
Who's this beauty you've been talking about?
Beauty's a horse, right?
Have you seen this program?
You're not at the table.
I would say your reactions, your responses to life encounters. I meant to ask you about Paul and that thorn in his flesh. Was he married? I wasn't. Right. Just kidding. Yeah. But I think that's a real good evidence is the way that people respond in any given situation to the things that they're encountering. And it takes that, you've got to have the long view, not just that you can't live right now in the present without the perspective of eternity in there to have any kind of, I personally don't know how folks go through the loss of a loved one without having Jesus Christ in their lives.
Yep.
I don't know how they do it and have any semblance of normalcy or peace or any of those things. Did I answer what you were asking?
No, the evidences of being a child of God.
Listen, I don't have a written document from God to prove that.
I got one here if you want it.
Well, I mean,
a birth certificate.
Yeah, I don't have he didn't write me hey, you're saved, and sign his signature. So I have to believe that. And the way I understand this is he doesn't make himself visible to us physically for a reason. I mean, otherwise, why wouldn't he just, show up in the studio right here? Right. There's a reason he doesn't. It has to be that my part of this is believing and maybe searching for him from the inside and not relying on the written signed document or not relying on the church I belong to. I've often thought, if I really thought I was saved, I could go off the hill here. There's a nice creek down here below the studio. I could go halfway down that hill, sit on the side of that hill for the rest of my life, and I would still be saved. I've often thought, if he saved me, I would miss a lot of living. And I think I would miss a lot of him kind of revealing to me through my life that he is there, that I am his. And you know, a lot of things that happen in your life you cannot explain. You can't explain. I'm not a hocus pocus type Christian. I don't look for magical signs
That's
or this
Latin,
or that.
by the way.
Pardon?
That's Latin, by the way.
Hocus pocus is?
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Let's talk about that sometime. It's
Okay.
interesting. I never knew
Stay
that.
focused on what you're doing.
Well, no. So I'm just saying, I've never been one to go with the magic aspect of faith. I think I understand and have for a long time. That's in me to believe this, and I believe it's proven to me over time that he communicates to me and reassures that, and the more I see, the more evidence I have to explain things that do not make sense. I should not be alive. I should not be alive. And the only reason I think I am is because there was something outside of me that interfered with the course of things. And I don't see any other good earthly excuse or explanation for any of that. In fact, creation, when I get to thinking about creation, I can't see anything on this planet that's a better explanation than he created it and is in control of it all. So it's
I
all
think
got
that's
deep,
good.
but it's
I think that's good.
It's inside. It's inside. I think the proof is.
You know, and as much as we as Christians probably wish we could have been there with the apostles, even Thomas said, if I don't see it, I'm not going to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Jesus didn't even scold him for that. He said, come here and look. And then we get to the Apostle Paul, and he had this Damascus Road experience. I don't know if y'all had a Damascus Road experience when you got saved, but I didn't have a light and a voice, you know, and all that. And we kind of go, man, if I was really a good Christian, maybe that's what it would be. But you know, the Bible even says, blessed are those who have not seen
And yet believe.
So you're right, Michael. There is something to God revealing himself to us outside of the normal senses that we use to interpret data in this world. And it's just as real. I think we talked last week. It's just as real as loving our spouse or loving our children. It's just as real. But the thing that, you know, we talk about the evidence of being a child of God, it to me is that calm assurance. That calm assurance. We will go through difficulties. We will have times that we can't understand, and we get blown away. Christians get absolutely blown away by the stuff that goes on in their life. But there is that peace that passes all understanding. There's that assurance. There's that we know, even though we don't think we know sometimes, we really know that we're loved. We know. I remember reading one of Adrian Rogers' books, and he talks about, he says, do you have faith today? Ask yourself that. Do I believe today that Jesus is who he said he is? He said, if you have it today, then you had it somewhere in your past. And so the evidence of being a Christian, I mean, we can get real biblical and talk about the fruit of the Spirit and all that stuff, but it's this idea that, you know, I want to know him. I want to be with him. I recognize that as much as I hold on to a lot of the things in this world, ultimately I can trust him because I'm going to lose all the things in this world.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a great example. We had a friend that we used to go to church with. They had gotten a kind of a wayward son up to his adult years. He goes, surrenders to ministry. He'd gone to do something with some ministry team. Didn't show up that morning. They went and knocked on his door, went in his room. He was laying there dead, probably 23, 24 years old. And he hadn't done anything wrong. He had a heart defect that they didn't know about. So, you know, I remember going to this funeral home and thinking, what am I going to say to this dad who's just lost his son and pretty close to our age? And I walked in, and This guy just grabs me and pulls me in and starts telling me all these stories about, hey, HD, look what God has shown me that my son had done, and he led this person to Christ, and all his friends have told me what a blessing he was. Now, I've known that family for a while, and if I saw them today, they still have that hollow look. I mean, death affects you, right?
Yep.
But there's that hope that they have, and that peace that passes all understanding. And so, what are the characteristics of a child of God? We begin to emulate Him and how we view things. And I liked what Neil said about the long view. You got to have the long view about everything that goes on. If I know in the end that I win, then the rest of this stuff is just part of the stuff. Yep. So I think that helps us.
You told us there was one message that you gave where you were talking about time, and I can't remember the exact example, but it was basically our lifetime is about that long.
Yeah.
But how long is
Long as
eternity?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So you just have to have that in focus.
Perspective, I guess.
Crap
It's a
happens.
good word.
Crap happens. It does.
That too.
It does. And we should expect it.
Well, I'll tell you what. If it don't, look, if you don't struggle a little bit, and if crap does not happen around you, how do you recognize when good things are going on? How do you know?
Well, then you're not dependent on God. I had a buddy of mine. He was saved late in life. He's just raw in his Christianity and trying to figure it out. And he told a guy he was witnessing to at his work, he said, I feel sorry for you. And the guy almost punched him. And he goes, what do you mean you feel sorry for me? He goes, you've got everything you want. You've got good looks. You've got money in your pocket. You've got girlfriends. You've got a nice car. He said, you don't need God. He said, I need God.
Interesting.
So, yep.
It's a better position to be in.
Yep, absolutely.
So if you're listening to us and you feel like you need something, I would suggest that, because I go back to the same stories about, well, we've seen it. All of us I know at this table have seen it. The funeral of a person who is not saved that you know of, and their family and the people there are not. It's such a sad thing, and it's because you realize they don't have anything to hang on to.
Right.
You can hang on to the Leonard Skinner favorite song for a little bit, but that's gone. As soon as it's over with, you got to have something else, and they just don't seem to have anything. The Christian person has something to hang on to keep you from going mentally insane when the crap happens, and the crap it just keeps happening.
Maybe a better phrase is storms of life. They're coming.
Yes. Well, I can't buzz because we lost power. And storms of life.
Right. We can say whatever we want now. They can't see our face.
Yes, if you're listening, we had a little video issue, so we moved on with sound. But anyway, that was part of my sound of the buzzer. But yeah, I think we've said here before, if you haven't took that step, give it a shot. I mean, what do you have to lose, really? What do you have to lose? If you feel like you don't have anything to lose, what do you have to lose to try?
Even the Bible says, come and taste and see. It doesn't say come and have a meal. It doesn't say come and gorge yourself. Come taste and see that the Lord is good. Give Him a shot, and I promise you He will change your life.
I do too.
That's good.
I'll witness to that. You remember that old song in churches, Come and Dine? Come and dine, the Master calleth, come and dine. You may feast at Jesus' table all the time. He who fed the multitude turned the water into wine. To the hungry calleth, now come and dine. Great old hymn.
There you go.
Feels like church. Okay, so anything else?
That's good.
We'll be back. Play Inny or Outty.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. here's Mike.
Hey, welcome back. We're back. We're back. The things that happen when we take a break sometimes are. We'll talk. We'll meet you on the front porch somewhere and tell you about them sometime. Hey, we're going to play Inny or Outty again. The America's Almost Favoriteest New game show. It's fun-ucational and needs no explanation. Correct, Neil?
Explanational.
It's
Explanational.
non-explanational and all that stuff. But anyway, we're going to ask you if something's in the Bible, and you're going to say it's either an Inny or an Outty.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. That's the only rules, I guess. We used to try to figure out how to score it, but that it took a year.
That was bad.
Yeah, it just never worked.
Because you wanted a half credit for having a gut feeling.
I did want half points. I did want participation trophies and all that. But so today, HD is going to throw one out at the table, and I'll throw one out at the table, and I'll go first this time. I think last week
I went first.
you went first, and I went last. Mine's pretty simple again. I'm pretty simple. So this Inny or Outty is pretty simple. It may result in a good conversation. Let's see what happens.
I'm up for that.
Is the word carnival in the Bible? Cue the music.
Carnivore?
Carnival.
Carnival.
Like the cruise line.
Yeah.
Right.
Is the word carnival in the Bible? Music should already be playing, so have at it, fellas. Discuss that one.
Carnival.
Mm-hmm. Lean into the mic there a little
I know
bit.
there are festivals. Festival is in
There's
there.
festivals, there's zoos and P.T. Barnum. And
I don't think P.T. Barnum was in.
Nope.
That was not a Jewish name.
He's not in there.
Isn't that interesting?
Carnival.
Speaking of left field, that's out of left field, isn't
That
it?
is.
Carnival.
My gut tells me.
Yes.
Jackson's just looking at words in the dictionary.
I think, I don't know. I mean, when you study the movement of the Hebrews, the Jewish people, they're going to festivals all the time, but
Yeah.
I don't remember them going to carnivals.
That's a good observation.
Yeah?
Yeah, they are. They go to festivals a lot. And
Which translation are you using?
I think about Inny.
Inny?
Inny?
Annie.
Oh,
Outty.
Annie.
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 Get your gun.
That is the proper way to say that, isn't it?
Annie.
Mhm.
Annie.
Yeah, because back in the old Arkansas studio days when I was doing voiceovers, one, they thought my name was Mac because of my southern accent.
Michael.
And then Inny was one of those, I noticed all the the high-paid voiceover guys said Annie. I just couldn't do it. It just
Right.
didn't sound right. Okay, moving on.
Back to carnival.
Is carnival in the Bible?
Annie, get your gun.
Annie, get
Right.
your gun.
You leaning?
I'm leaning out.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way with you. So I think what we're saying, Michael, is a very resounding, not really,
Unless you're using the message translation.
not really sure
No,
of
you know
ourselves.
how- you know about me.
We'll say carnival is not in the Bible.
So you're saying it would be
An Outty.
an
Thank you.
Outty. I'm a little disturbed that you did that quick. That you got to that. I mean, I thought, surely they're going to talk about this for a while.
Well, there's no video, and I know how much people like to watch us.
Exactly. Watch us flounder.
Yeah.
You're right, it's an Outty. Carnival is not in there, but the references to, like Neil was saying, the constant festivals, they were all about
Right.
festivals. And I did read that the word carnival is derived from other things that had something to do with a Catholic thing about
Carne.
not eating so much meat
Right.
or eating too much meat. One of those two. But so that word somehow came out of that.
Carne.
I don't know how
C-A-R-N-E
carnival
is
and the
meat.
came to be a carnival as we know it today. So I don't know what it would have. Maybe it's the corn dog connection. There's been like a recurring.
You don't know that there's any meat in that corn dog.
That's right. Oh,
Is that what they mean when they say carne diem?
Could be.
Oh, wait, that's carpe diem.
This is a side note. I get bored on occasion.
Carne.
I made some homemade corn dogs recently.
Huh?
Yes. You can make your own batter and deep fry corn, and it was pretty good.
And
You have to. There's
We
a
didn't-
learning
we
curve
didn't
because the
taste
first
test
2 or
it.
3 times it kind of exploded,
Like-
split open.
You got a
but-
deep fryer?
yeah, I have a deep fryer. And
Did you ever put an ice cube in it?
huh?
Did you ever put an ice cube in
No,
it?
but I've washed it right before I've used it. Sometimes make sure
No.
you dry it.
Yeah, no water.
Anyway, so carnival not in the Bible. Corn dog not in the Bible. Homemade corn dogs did it. All right,
Okay.
that was an Outty, and you all won.
I really thought we should have been able to sample. Well, you wouldn't want to sample that, but
What?
Yeah.
Corn dog?
Corn dogs.
I'll make you some.
all right. So, Paul was a very educated man,
Mhm.
and frequently would use extra biblical sources in his writing of Scripture.
Like an encyclopedia, or
Yeah. Like he would quote
Josephus.
poets.
oh,
He would quote poets or
who did you say?
outside the
Josephus.
faith. Is that in the Bible? Is it in Inny or an Outty?
Is what?
Paul quoting historical figures, not religious figures.
Okay, let me make sure I understand. Are you asking us?
Yes.
Does it say in the Bible that Paul used outside sources, or are you saying that some of those quotes are in some of those phrases
Right.
are in the Bible? Okay,
or out?
we're out. Therefore, I would think that just in talking that those would work their way into things he said, wouldn't you?
The primary one I always think of, isn't it Josephus that wrote the Antiquities, the Jewish Antiquities?
Yes.
And those are the things that, well, those
He was
are
a historian.
those those are the things that people go to and say, if you don't believe the Bible, you can look in this. This guy was not a follower of Jesus, and yet he documents as a historical fact
Right.
Jesus being crucified. So I'm trying to think if
Well, it would just make sense then, wouldn't it, that he would say some of those things. In fact, did he actually mention that very thing you're talking about? That even the historians or somebody said, did he mention that? Paul?
that I don't know.
Maybe I dreamed that. I dreamed a couple of nights ago that I was in Chicago.
Making corn dogs.
No, that everything I was doing, I had AI do it. AI get me a Uber to the museum downtown Chicago. It was like every single thing. AI, I need a corn dog now. It was actually annoying.
Which museum did it take you to?
There's a history museum down there,
There's a natural history museum. Yeah, it's
I've been to it
really good.
long ago.
Sue is there.
Sue? Oh, the little
T-Rex head. They have the skull of a T-Rex
oh, that's Sue.
in there, and it's named Sue. Yes.
Oh, I'm thinking of DC's natural
Smithsonian.
history and the little woman they've got in there that they said is, I don't remember if her name was Sue, but she's about 2 feet tall. And I think it's a monkey, but they put a
Oh.
wig on it. And okay, so
It's a politician, isn't it?
yes, yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
I think Inny, just for the fact that I think just in his language, and maybe even something makes me think he might have alluded to
Referenced
that.
that?
Yeah, that even, if you don't believe me, even these people who are not followers, or
I can't argue with that because I don't know it for a fact, but it
Me
seems
neither.
weird to me
yeah,
that the Bible would have extra biblical things in it. I could be
no, well, I see your point there, and
because that would lend legitimacy to something that's extra
that's
biblical.
outside the Bible, unless he just
Right.
mentioned that it was a further proof that.
Which is what you were saying. I
Yeah.
don't know where that would
I don't think that would be sacrilegious, like adding something to the Bible. Now I'm going to wonder about that.
Is it a jot or a tittle?
Yeah, is it? You know, the last time
Those
I
words
talked
make
you
me
into
smile.
going my way, though, we were wrong. So
You're easy to do that with, you know.
I know, right?
it's probably an Outty.
I'm thinking it's an Outty, but I don't know.
I'm going with you this time because I'm scared.
So
now
what
that
are
I'm
you
adding
saying? What are you saying is the Outy? I'm confused.
The
I forgot.
phrases that were written
Extra
outside.
biblical sources.
Yes, extra
that
biblical.
Paul would have quoted.
Yes,
Is that what you were asking?
So,
Outty
so he quoted people outside of the scriptures.
in his writings that we read down.
So this
in
is
the
an
Bible.
Inny that's an Outy, Outy that's an Inny.
It's really confusing, but I think we've landed on Outty.
Well, you are correct. And
Thank you, Neil.
the only negative to all this is that, you know, it hurts my feelings because I just taught this recently on Wednesday night, which means y'all are not listening to me. But anyway, here's what Paul says to Titus.
Oops.
He uses this. He says, it's necessary to silence them because they overthrow households by teaching what they shouldn't in order to get money dishonestly. He says, one of their very own prophets said, Cretans are always liars and evil beasts. They are lazy gluttons. So literally, Paul uses a poet from Crete and takes their saying to agree with the people in churches that y'all are a bunch of liars. So he uses outside sources to give legitimacy to what he's teaching them.
So were we right or
You
wrong?
were right. Yes. Yeah.
That it's an Outty.
Yeah. Correct.
But you just said
Outside. He used outside sources.
Oh, then we were incorrect.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah, we were
confused.
wrong.
we were saying-
I was confused.
Yeah.
We said it was an Outty.
I think we worded the question a little.
Yeah. I thought
Peculiarly-
you said yes. He used outside sources.
Oh no.
Well, I'm trying to give you.
No, he did originally thought that.
Well, yeah, but then I was a little
going-
feared that I was adding to the Bible.
Right.
It says
You're
pretty
right.
plainly, don't do that.
Because
So
right.
Well, the good news is we don't know. No, we know Paul quoted outside
Interesting.
sources, and that he used it to bring home a point that he was
Very
making.
yeah,
Interesting.
it is interesting.
Wow.
So I wonder if was Josephus mentioned in?
I don't think
think
he's
so.
quoted because I think he comes along later.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, after the
I think he
scriptures.
was within. I want to say it was like
2 to 500.
maybe not that long, but like 50 years after.
He just missed.
I'm sorry. So all the New Testament's written within the first 100 years. So between that and that's what I was thinking.
We're right, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just missed.
He was a respected authority, though,
Yeah.
as far as
Oh,
a
yeah.
historian.
Yes, interesting readings
Yes.
to this day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That was fun. Fun-ucational.
There you go.
And good. That's really good. I always like Inny or Outty. I feel smarter after Inny or Outty. Like immediately the next day, it's pretty well gone.
gone
but,
away.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that day I
The next day I'm going,
I feel like I've accomplished
how can
something.
I make my corn dogs better?
Yeah, that's right. I'll be on the corn dogs tomorrow. Okay, that was good. We'll come back in a second and tell you bye.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
Hey, it's nice to get together. I think we enjoy it here in the studio, and we hope you enjoy it there and get together wherever you're gathered.
You know, we started this on the front porch talking about front porches,
Yes,
and then we ended with no video. So
Right.
it's almost like being on the front porch listening to
at
your
night.
listening to your grandparents through the screen door.
exactly. It's just like that. So gather up at somebody's house and see if you can hear somebody outside on your porch talking.
And then call the police.
And then call the police, right? Okay, so I don't know what just happened, but we'll be back next week. It's good to be back, and I'm glad you're back, HD. You, Neil, I'm glad you're back.
Thanks.
I'm glad I'm back. It all works out better. We're glad if you're listening that you're back. If you're watching, you're looking at a still picture right now, but we're still glad you're.
And we've all got each other's back.
We do, and I think we're at the delirious point. So we'll just say we'll see you next time. Hey, We really are just Christians.
Trying not to.
Cuss.
We really are.
Because today would have been a good day
It would have been
Yeah.
to just
we
throw a few,
lost the
throw a few
video.
words at it.
been
Yeah.
a good day, but we're not going to do that.
Nope.
Not going to do it. That's what Bush said. See you next time.
Mike the Baptist.